My name is Marjorie Lanham. I'm 33 years old, and the day my sister tried to invoice the entire family for her fantasy life began with an email subject line so sweet it practically gave me a cavity. We're so excited to welcome baby Ethan. Pastel fonts, floating teddy bears, a tiny cartoon rainbow. It looked like a Pinterest nursery mood board had exploded in my inbox. I was sitting at my kitchen table, half-finished coffee growing cold, while my boyfriend Liam was in the living room wrestling with the TV mount he'd promised to fix this weekend for the past 3 weekends. The moment I saw my sister's name in my inbox, something inside my chest tightened. A familiar warning, the kind that comes from years of knowing someone's chaos by scent alone. I clicked the email. There it was. A baby shower invitation that was way too polished for our messy, loud, very un-Pinterest-like family. At the bottom, bolded and blinking like a trap, sat the link. Click here to bless baby Ethan's future. I actually smiled a little. My sister had always been a performer, a one-woman Broadway production of sparkles, tears, and manufactured spotlight. Growing up, she was the princess, the prodigy, the one with custom birthday cakes shaped like castles, while I got sheet cake with uneven frosting. I took a breath and tapped the link, expecting a few overpriced onesies or maybe a trendy wooden mobile, things I could roll my eyes at and still buy without selling my kidneys. I was not prepared for what loaded. The first item, Stroller, imported from Sweden, $12,000, custom embroidery, real leather handle. The kind of stroller celebrities buy to avoid being photographed, pushing something basic. I blinked. Then I scrolled. A $6,800 crib from some boutique in LA known for limited-run artisanal craftsmanship. A $400 wipe warmer. A diaper pail with a subscription model. A handmade nursery rug priced higher than my rent in my first apartment. And at the bottom, the pièce de résistance, a down payment contribution pool. Goal on 100,000. I stared at the number, waiting for my brain to accept it. It didn't. I laughed, loudly. The kind of laugh that comes out sharp because it's either laugh or scream. Liam poked his head into the kitchen, one hand still bracing the TV on the wall. You okay? He asked. Mm-hmm, I said. My sister has created a baby registry that rivals most people's annual salaries. Totally normal. He blinked. Do I want to see it? No, it'll just make you question humanity. Still, I scrolled. Because some small part of me, the part that still believed in good intentions, still answered her calls, still covered her mistakes, wanted to be wrong. I wasn't. I hovered over the phone icon for a full 10 seconds before calling her. She answered with a voice so sweet it could rot teeth. Marjorie, did you get the invite? Isn't it adorable? Cute isn't the word I'd use, I said slowly. Hey, just wondering. The registry, was this meant to be funny? Instant tone shift, ice replacing honey. I don't appreciate your attitude, she snapped. We're building a life. Our circle understands what it means to invest in family. Our circle. The phrase alone made my spine itch. I was thinking of bringing a book set and a handmade blanket, I said, like a normal person. If you can't support our vision, she hissed, then maybe you shouldn't bother showing up. Before I could reply, I heard her husband in the background. Smug, sharp, always sounding like he's talking to someone he thinks is beneath him. He grabbed the phone. If you're not going to be part of the future, he said, calm as a threat, then stay in the past. Click. The line went dead. I lowered the phone and stared at it. Liam walked in, wiping his hands on his jeans, sensing my silence. This the same sister who returned your car with the fuel light on and a parking ticket in the glove box? He asked. That would be the one. He leaned against the counter. You don't owe her anything, Marjorie. But that was the thing. I had been owing her things, covering for her, absorbing her fallout, shielding her from consequences for years. Long before the $12,000 stroller. That night, after the baby shower email had circulated through half the family, I lay awake staring at the ceiling, the room tinted blue from Liam's bedside lamp. My mind wandered back to 2020, when she moved in with our parents for a few weeks. It wasn't a few weeks. It was 6 months. 6 months of no rent, no job, no effort. 6 months of mom defending her and dad pretending nothing was wrong. 6 months of me dropping by to check in, only to find her hunched over her laptop at 2 p.m., yelling at strangers in an online poker room. It's not gambling, she'd snapped once when I pointed out the obvious. It's strategy. 3 months later, her savings were gone. Then her laptop disappeared. Sold. Her jewelry pawned. Her dignity hanging by threads she refused to acknowledge. One night I found her sitting on the kitchen floor, eyes red, mascara a disaster. "I'm in debt," she whispered. "Please don't tell Mom. Please, Marjorie. I just need a streak, and I'll fix everything." I should have said no. I should have walked away. But I didn't. I gave her 200. It vanished in 3 days. I told myself she was lost. I told myself sisters help each other. I told myself I was being compassionate, not foolish. But then she started stealing. Transfers from Mom's account, refund scams, returning things she bought with money that wasn't hers. When I confronted her, she cried on cue, insisting it was an accident. Mom believed her. "Don't make things worse," she'd said softly, stirring pasta sauce like a woman trying to hold her family together with a wooden spoon. So I stayed quiet. I carried her secrets. I protected her image. I let her keep pretending. But that had been 4 years ago. Now she was pregnant, married, and behaving like a suburban Kardashian, demanding tens of thousands for a child who hadn't even taken a breath. And the worst part? She genuinely believed it was our job to provide it. 3 days after the phone call, her baby shower happened, without me. I spent the evening eating lasagna with Liam, sipping wine, and trying not to check my phone. But my phone didn't care about my peace. Buzz, buzz, buzz. 3 missed calls, 2 furious texts from our cousin Marie, a Facebook notification, a post from my sister. Some people just can't handle when others win. I stared at the screen, heat rising behind my eyes despite knowing I'd done nothing wrong. "Don't," Liam murmured, setting a hand on my shoulder. "Don't let her drag you into her performance." "I'm not," I said. But my jaw was tight. My pulse was loud in my ears. Old habits are hard to kill, especially the habit of swallowing the truth to keep the peace. I set my phone face down. I thought that would be the end of it. Oh, Marjorie, you sweet, naive idiot. The next day, my cousin Jenny sent me photos from the shower. Balloon arches taller than the doorway. A custom neon sign with baby Ethan. A gift display table that was almost empty. A few small boxes. Some gift cards. But no $12,000 stroller. No $6,800 crib. Where did those Instagram nursery photos come from then? Jenny texted, confused. Then she sent the next discovery. The tags are still on everything. Then my brother chimed in with the final blow, a reverse image search. The stroller? Rented. $290 per day. The crib? Rented. Half the nursery? Rented. She'd staged her entire life for photos. A performance, a fantasy, and she fully expected all of us to fund it. Something in me hardened. She didn't know that I knew the truth. She didn't know how deep her problem went. She didn't know I had protected her for years, covered lies, paid debts, swallowed guilt. But I realized something sitting there with Jenny's photos glowing in my hand. I was done being part of her illusion. And the next choice I made would pull the first thread that unraveled everything. The day I finally broke my silence didn't feel dramatic at first. It didn't come with thunder, or a meltdown, or some cinematic confrontation. It began with a cup of lukewarm coffee and a phone call I almost ignored. My Aunt Deb. Aunt Deb never called me. She texted birthday balloons and sent links to cat videos. If she was calling, something had cracked. I answered. "Marjorie," she said without a hello. "Please tell me your sister's registry is a joke." I sighed. I wish I could. Aunt Deb exhaled, long and shaking. "Your mother is trying to stay neutral. Your father is pretending nothing is wrong. Your sister is acting like a celebrity who's been wronged by haters. Her word, not mine." "Sounds about right." There was a pause, then her voice sharpened. "Are we enabling something? You can tell me the truth. I won't repeat anything you don't want me to." And for the first time in years, I felt the weight of every secret I'd carried. Every lie I'd covered. Every stolen dollar I'd ignored. Every sleepless night spent wondering if she'd ever hit bottom. I hesitated. Then I said the words I'd swallowed for too long. "Aunt Deb, she has a gambling problem." Silence. "Has?" Deb repeated. "Or had?" "Has," I whispered. "She's been hiding it for years." I told her the truth. Not everything. Just the surface. The savings she'd blown through. The months she'd lived off our parents. The $12,200 I'd lent her that vanished. The money she accidentally transferred from Mom. The apps she abused for returns. Aunt Deb listened without interrupting once. When I finished, she inhaled sharply. "Marjorie, I sent her $2,000 yesterday." My stomach dropped. "She said they needed it to finish the nursery," Deb continued. "But now I'm realizing, Marjorie, she posted pictures of a crib I swear I saw on a celebrity rental site." "You did," I said. "Almost everything she posted was rented." Another silence, but this one wasn't shocked. It was furious. Aunt Deb wasn't the type to explode, but I could hear her anger in the pauses, in the breath she held back. She thinks we're idiots, Deb said finally. All of us. She wasn't wrong. And once someone in my family realized they'd been played, the news traveled at the speed of blood. Within 48 hours, 6 different people contacted me. Jenny, Uncle Rob, 2 cousins from my dad's side, even a distant family friend who only popped up for weddings. All asking the same thing. Is it true? And this time I didn't lie. I told the truth. Every piece of it. I expected guilt, shame, the crushing pressure of betraying my sister. Instead, it felt like breathing after being underwater for too long. But the fallout didn't begin with us. It began with her husband's family. I didn't know them well. They'd always been polite, reserved, maybe a little too quiet at gatherings. But 2 days after everything blew open, her mother-in-law called my mother. Not angrily, not hysterically, just tired. Is there something we should know? She asked Mom. She'd already seen strange charges in their joint account. Money disappearing, odd receipts, emotional blow-ups her son couldn't explain. When Mom hesitated, and hesitated too long, her mother-in-law understood. By evening, my sister had been confronted. She admitted just enough to make herself the victim, spinning every theft as stress, every lie as fear, every gamble as desperation. Her husband didn't buy it. He left that night. Not permanently, not yet, but he went to stay with his parents for space. Space. People don't ask for space unless they're halfway out the door. 2 days later, my sister showed up at my house unannounced. Liam opened the door, startled. She swept past him in a storm of accusations, half sobs, and shaky breathing. You told them, she spat. You told the whole family lies about me. Nothing I said was a lie, I replied, steady but exhausted. You want me to suffer, she snapped. You always have. You're jealous of my life, my marriage, my baby. Your life is on fire, I cut in, and all I did was stop shielding you from the smoke. She froze. For a moment, I thought she might actually hear me, but then her face twisted. You ruined everything, she hissed. No, I said quietly. You did. I just stopped cleaning up after you. She left in a flurry of slammed doors and muffled sobs. Liam looked at me as the door rattled shut. You okay? I swallowed the lump forming in my throat. I don't think she realizes yet, I said. But this is just the beginning. The next blow came from Mom. My mother, sweet, overly forgiving, gentle mom, finally broke. She created a family group chat and sent one brutal message. No more money. If you choose to help her, do so knowing the truth. No yelling, no drama, just the truth. And the truth hit harder than any accusation. My sister posted a vague quote on Facebook hours later, something about betrayal and snakes in the grass. She deleted it when no one commented. Silence isn't neutral. Silence is a verdict. But the fallout was only beginning. A slow unraveling followed, one thread pulled after another, until everything she'd stitched together fell apart. Her college friend Alyssa untagged herself from all the baby shower photos. Her yoga coworker removed her from close friends on Instagram. A babysitter she'd booked months in advance suddenly canceled with a family emergency. And then came the biggest shift. Her in-laws cut her off completely. Her husband wasn't coming back, at least not to the marriage. He was quietly building an exit, brick by brick, in the form of financial separation paperwork, something I only learned about when he texted me late one night. We'd never spoken before, but now he wanted the truth. Does she have a problem? He asked. I didn't lie. I told him everything. The gambling, the debts, the money she took from Mom's retirement, the lies, the apologies, the repeat cycle. He didn't respond. Not for hours, not for days. But his next action spoke louder. He moved out. For real this time, and began the legal process to separate their finances before the baby arrived. That's when my sister spiraled again. Not dramatically, not loudly, but in a quiet, brittle way, the kind that feels dangerous. She showed up at my door for the second time. No ring, no makeup, no car. She'd taken an Uber, and for the first time in years, she didn't rant. She just said, I need help. No theatrics, no manipulation, just exhaustion. I looked at her and saw something I'd never seen before. Fear. But fear alone doesn't fix anything. How much debt do you have? I asked. She didn't answer. She just waited for me to fix it. And I realized then she wasn't asking for help. She was asking for rescue. And I couldn't be her rescuer again. Not anymore. Not after everything. But the worst blow, the one that hit full force, came a few days later. Our uncle, the one who had co-signed a $20,000 private student loan for her, received a call. She hadn't made a single payment in months. She'd told him it was set to autopay. She lied. Now he was responsible for the full balance. He called her. She ignored him. So he called me. She's not just reckless, he said. She's dangerous. 2 weeks later, the baby was born. A healthy boy. Perfect. Except no one in the family was there. Not mom, not dad, not me. She posted one photo, dim lighting, no props, no expensive rentals, just her and the baby under a hospital blanket. No hashtags, no captions. For the first time, her social media didn't feel like a performance. But performances don't die easily. They always wait for their next stage. And she found hers 22 days later. 22 days after my nephew was born, my sister reappeared exactly the way I should have predicted. Without apology, without shame, and without any acknowledgement of the destruction she'd left behind. It started with a text she sent to our cousin Jenny. "Hey babe, I'm in a better place now. I'd love to reconnect." That was it. No sorry, no ownership, nothing. Jenny showed me the message, rolled her eyes, and blocked her without hesitation. I envied her decisiveness. I'd never been able to detach like that, not even after everything. The next morning, Aunt Deb forwarded me an email she'd received from my sister. The subject line read, "A repayment plan proposal." The body was clearly copied from a financial advice article. Bullet points, legal-sounding phrases, even grammar that didn't match how my sister normally wrote. Aunt Deb's entire reaction was one sentence. "She still thinks we're stupid." She was right. A week passed before my sister launched her next move, a sympathy campaign. She posted a photo of the baby lying on a bare mattress in an empty room. No sheets, no toys, nothing. The walls behind him were blank. The caption simply said, "Comments off." I stared at the photo for a long time, not because it made me pity her, but because I recognized the manipulation instantly. She wanted strangers to fill the void her family had refused to fill. Within hours, people started messaging me. Neighbors, distant acquaintances, parents from her baby group. Some asked if she was okay. Others wondered if she needed donations. I told them the truth. She sold every gift she received. She spent the money gambling. What you're seeing isn't neglect from us. It's the result of her choices. The sympathy dried up almost instantly. That night, I sat at my dining table with my laptop open and created a folder titled simply, "Sister, Evidence." I didn't do it out of vengeance. I did it because I knew something was coming. Something bigger than the baby shower fiasco, the gambling, the lies, the fake nursery. Something she was preparing, and I needed to be ready. I started gathering everything I had. Screenshots of the luxury items she'd rented for photos, proof of her gambling accounts, bank transfers from mom's account, messages from relatives about stolen money, photos of the empty gift table at her baby shower, her fake job titles, her debt messages, everything. It was all right there in front of me. Neatly organized chaos. The truth of who she had been for years. A few days later, my boss walked over to my desk holding a printed resume. He placed it gently in front of me. "Marjorie, this applicant says she's your sister. Wanted to confirm some details." I glanced down at the paper and felt a new kind of dread. The resume was almost entirely fabricated. Fake job titles, fake companies, fake responsibilities. She had even included a bullet point claiming she oversaw regional finance operations, which was laughably untrue. "No," I said immediately. "None of this is real." He nodded once, walked to his shredder, and fed the pages in without another word. The ripping sound was strangely satisfying, but it also made something inside me ache. She hadn't even tried to get her life on track. She was still lying, still pretending, still believing she could manipulate her way back into stability. That night, I got a text from an unknown number. "You've ruined everything for me." I blocked it. The next morning, Mom called, her voice trembling. "She came to church," she said. "She sat alone. She didn't have the baby with her. She left halfway through." I closed my eyes. "Did she speak to anyone?" "No," Mom whispered. "She looked lost." For the first time in years, I felt something close to grief. Not for me, not for the family, but for her, for who she could have been if she had ever stopped lying long enough to get real help. But grief wasn't enough to excuse what she did next. Late one night, my phone buzzed with a link, a GoFundMe page. My stomach dropped before I even clicked it. The title, "Help a Single Mother Escape a Dangerous Environment." Her goal, $50,000. At the top of the page was a photo of me holding her newborn, the one time I visited when Mom begged me to stop by. But the image had been cropped to hide my face, making it seem like she was handing her baby to some unknown woman. Underneath the picture, she wrote, "My own sister refuses to help. I've been abandoned and left with nothing." Money was already flowing in, hundreds of dollars, then thousands. I sat there, staring at the screen, feeling something inside me freeze solid. She had crossed a line I didn't even realize existed. She wasn't just lying. She was weaponizing me. I opened the evidence folder. I attached everything, every screenshot, every documented lie, every debt note, every fake registry purchase, every bank transfer, every rented nursery photo, every message she'd sent begging, every message she'd sent blaming. And I filed a fraud report to GoFundMe. 48 hours later, the page vanished. Every donor was refunded. Her account was flagged for investigation. My sister didn't reach out, but everyone else did. Neighbors stopped by my porch. Old classmates messaged me. Even her yoga teacher made a public post warning others about her scams. Her last circle, the very last people still trying to give her the benefit of doubt, finally stepped away. And then came the message I wasn't expecting. It was from her husband's mother. "Marjorie," she wrote, "please come over. We need to discuss custody." I stared at the message for a long time. This was no longer just about my sister. This was about the baby. The moment I hit respond, I knew everything was about to change. I sat in my car outside her husband's parents' house longer than I should have. The porch light was on. The neighborhood was quiet. A dog barked somewhere in the distance. Everything looked normal, peaceful even, but nothing about what was happening was remotely peaceful. When I finally walked up and knocked, her mother-in-law opened the door immediately, like she'd been waiting for me. Her face was calm, but there was a heaviness in her eyes I hadn't seen before. She ushered me inside without a word. Her husband sat at the dining table, shoulders slumped, dark circles carved beneath his eyes. He looked older than the last time I'd seen him, like someone who'd aged months in just weeks. Across from him, in a little bassinet, was the baby. I felt something twist in my chest. He looked peaceful, innocent, completely untouched by the chaos swirling around him. Her husband cleared his throat. "Thank you for coming." "I understand," I said quietly. "You need the truth." He nodded. "And we need to protect him." I sat down. Everything I'd been carrying, the secrets, the guilt, the exhaustion, pressed down all at once. I opened the laptop I'd brought with me. The evidence folder was there, full and damning. Before I could say anything, her mother-in-law spoke. "We're not looking to punish her," she said softly, "but she won't tell the truth, not to us, not to anyone, and we need to know what we're up against before we talk to a lawyer." I met her eyes and saw something heartbreaking. Grief. Not anger, not judgment. Just a mother watching her son face something he never imagined he'd face. I slid the laptop toward them and began. I told them everything. Not the sugar-coated versions, not the excuses. Every lie, every scam, every debt, every stolen dollar, every rental, every manipulation. Her husband didn't interrupt once. His jaw clenched tighter with every page, every screenshot, every bank transfer. When I was done, he let out a long, hollow breath. "I knew some things," he murmured, "but, God, not like this." His mother wiped her eyes with a tissue. "We need to make sure the baby is safe," she said. She left him alone twice. Once while she was on a call with a lender. Once while she was at a gas station. For 45 minutes. She swallowed hard. "We didn't even know until yesterday." I felt my stomach sink. This wasn't just neglect. This was dangerous. Her husband turned to me. "I'm filing for temporary shared custody. My lawyer says the judge will want evidence." I nodded. I knew what he was asking. And I knew what it meant. "I'll give you everything," I said. "Every document, every message, whatever you need." He looked relieved and devastated at the same time. "Thank you," he said, his voice cracking. "I never wanted it to come to this." "I know," I said softly. "None of us did." 3 days later, she was served. Mom called me that night, her voice trembling, not with anger, something worse. Confusion. "She came home screaming," Mom whispered. "She said you betrayed her. She said she has nothing left." "She has the baby half the week," I said. "She's not losing him." "She thinks she will," Mom murmured, "and she's blaming everyone but herself." "Of course she is," I said, trying to keep my tone steady. "That's not all," Mom continued. "She asked if she could move back in with us." I closed my eyes. "Mom!" I said no. Silence. My mother, the woman who had coddled her, excused her, covered for her, defended her beyond reason, had finally said no. "She didn't take it well," Mom whispered. "But I can't do it anymore, Marjorie. I can't be her safety net, not with the baby in the middle of all this." It was the first time I'd ever heard my mother sound old. If I thought that might jolt my sister awake, I was wrong. Her next move was predictable and exhausting. She applied for jobs everywhere she shouldn't. places she had lied to before, places that knew me. She sent out a new resume, just as fabricated, just as delusional. My uncle received another call from the student loan agency. She missed yet another payment. Then came the messages, the long, emotional paragraphs about being misunderstood, about fighting for her baby, about being abandoned by everyone. Not once did she apologize. Not once did she take responsibility. She wanted sympathy, not accountability. She wanted rescue, not repair. And then, as if she hadn't learned a single thing from the GoFundMe debacle, she tried again. This time she didn't target strangers. She targeted the family group chat. She sent a photo of an empty fridge, then a picture of the baby in a diaper that was obviously staged to look too small. Then a message. I guess some families don't care if their own flesh and blood are starving. I didn't reply. No one did. An hour passed. Then two. Then something shocking happened. Dad responded. My father, the man who never raised his voice, never confronted anyone, never called out my sister, even when she was stealing from their accounts, sent a single message. You chose this. Fix it. I had to reread it 3 times. Dad didn't argue. Dad didn't blame. Dad didn't even send long paragraphs. Dad spoke in short, surgical sentences when he was done with someone. She didn't reply again. For almost a full month, she went quiet. No social media, no texts, no phone calls, no drama. It was the longest silence I'd ever seen from her. The next time she resurfaced, she didn't come after me, or the family. She came after herself. She sent me an email. It was long, 3 pages, about therapy, shame, motherhood, wanting to do better, wanting her son to grow up seeing accountability, not excuses. She wrote that she understood if I never forgave her, but she hoped I'd save a seat at every birthday, every milestone. It was thoughtful, measured, sincere, almost. It almost worked. Almost. But then the past 20 years flooded back. Every false apology, every I swear that led to another lie, every tear she'd weaponized. I closed the email. I didn't reply. Not out of cruelty, out of protection. For myself, for the baby, for the family, for the line I finally learned how to draw. She wasn't cut off from everyone. Slowly, people eased back in. Cousins dropping off clothes, Aunt Deb leaving toys at her door, Uncle Rob mailing a check for the baby, addressed specifically to her husband. But I stayed away. I wasn't her enemy. I wasn't her savior. I wasn't her scapegoat anymore. I was something she had never allowed me to be. A sister with boundaries. And standing there in that truth, clear, steady, and unshakable, I realized something that felt almost like peace. I hadn't destroyed her life. I just stopped letting her destroy mine. I didn't expect to see her again so soon. I didn't plan to. Every boundary I'd set was deliberate. No visits, no emotional rescues, no sudden midnight calls. I had finally stepped out of the role I'd played my entire life. The fixer, the buffer, the silent cleanup crew. But life doesn't always honor boundaries neatly. It was a gray, heavy afternoon when it happened. The kind where the clouds sit low, pressing against the sky like a warning. I had just finished grocery shopping and was loading bags into my car when I heard someone say my name. Marjorie? I turned. She stood on the far edge of the parking lot. No makeup, no designer bag. Hair pulled into a messy bun. Her coat hung off her shoulders like she'd borrowed it from someone bigger. In her arms was the baby, wrapped in a thin blue blanket. She looked smaller than I remembered, deflated. For a moment, neither of us moved. Then she walked toward me. I didn't know where else to go, she whispered. I looked around automatically, checking for her husband's car, for our mother, for any sign this was a setup or a crisis she wanted me to solve. But it was just her, just the baby, just the weight of 1,000 unspoken things. I closed my trunk quietly. Are you okay? She shook her head. I'm trying, she whispered. I swear I'm trying, Marjorie, but everything feels so hard now. Her voice broke, not dramatically, not manipulatively, but in a way that sounded raw, real. I can't go back to Mom's, she said. They won't let me. And his parents, they don't trust me alone with him, not after the gas station incident. The shame in her voice was unmistakable. She was unraveling, and for once she wasn't blaming me while she did it. I took a breath. Where are you living? She looked down at the baby. A friend's place, for now. A friend, not a partner, not family. Her life, once curated through Instagram filters and stage nurseries, had shrunk to the fragile reality she'd been outrunning for years. Why are you here? I asked gently. She swallowed. I needed someone to see me. Not the version of me everyone thinks I am. Not the lies. Not the mistakes. her eyes filled with tears. Just me. For the first time since this entire ordeal began, something inside me softened, not because she deserved forgiveness, but because she finally spoke without performing. "Marjorie," she whispered, "am I a bad mother?" My breath caught. There was a time I would have rushed to reassure her, would have said no, would have smoothed over every crack. Not anymore. "Being a mother isn't about being perfect," I said quietly. "It's about doing the work, every day, even when you don't want to." Her tears fell then, hitting the baby's blanket like tiny storms. "I'm scared," she choked. "I don't know if I can fix everything I broke." "You can't fix everything," I said honestly, "but you can start." She nodded slowly, like the words landed somewhere deep. We stood there in this cold, the three of us, me, her, and the baby she loved but wasn't sure how to care for without destroying herself. Finally, she took a small breath. "I wrote you an email," she said. "The long one." I read it. "You didn't answer." "I know." She looked at me, eyes searching. "Did you hate it?" I shook my head. "No, I just needed space from the version of you who always wrote apologies right before doing something worse." Her face crumpled, but she didn't argue. "That's fair," she whispered. I motioned toward the bench near the lot. "Let's sit." We did. She held the baby carefully, almost protectively, as if afraid someone might take him away at any second. "He's beautiful," I said. "He's the only thing I haven't ruined," she murmured. "That's not true." "But it feels like it." Her honesty startled me. For the first time in years, she wasn't denying, spinning, manipulating. She was just exhausted. Human. She looked up suddenly. "Can I ask you something?" "Anything." "Why didn't you give up on me sooner?" I let the question settle, because I kept waiting for you to catch yourself, to hit bottom, to choose differently. "And now?" "Now I think you're finally starting." She took a long, shaky breath. "Do you think the family will forgive me?" "They'll forgive the parts you own," I said, "not the ones you pretend didn't happen." She nodded. "I guess that's fair." Silence settled between us. Not heavy, not angry, just real. Then she stood, adjusting the baby in her arms. "I won't ask you for anything," she said. "Not money, not favors, not forgiveness. I just needed to tell you I'm trying, for him." "I believe you," I said, "but you need to keep trying, not just today." She nodded again, wiped her face with her sleeve, and managed a small, trembling smile. "Thank you," she whispered. "For what?" "For not lying to me." She turned and walked away, her silhouette fading into the gray distance, slow but steady, like someone learning to exist without a mask. I watched her go, not with hope, not with hatred, but with a quiet, steady acceptance. She wasn't fixed. She wasn't redeemed. But for the first time, she was facing forward instead of sideways. And as I stood there in the cold parking lot, bags of groceries at my feet, I realized something I hadn't felt in a long time. I loved her. Not the version she performed. Not the version she pretended to be. Not the version I used to protect. I loved the broken, frightened, imperfect person who finally showed up. And loving her didn't mean saving her. It meant letting her learn, letting her grow, letting her fall and get back up by herself. As I drove home, the sky began to lighten just a little, the clouds softening at the edges like dawn was somewhere behind them, waiting. It wasn't a happy ending. It wasn't a tragic one. It was something much more real, a beginning.